All right, today we are diving into the opening of one of the most influential books ever written, the Gospel of Matthew. We're going to explore the incredibly strategic way it introduces its central figure. This isn't just a biography, it's a carefully constructed argument that Jesus is the long-awaited king. So let's unravel this ancient case, starting right at verse 1.
So, right out of the gate, Matthew hits us with a puzzle. Instead of some big, dramatic opening, he starts with a genealogy, a long list of so-and-so was the father of so-and-so. Now, for us, that seems like a terrible way to hook a reader, right? But what if this wasn't just some boring list? What if it was the entire argument of the book in miniature? That's the mystery we're going to solve.
Okay, let's explore this surprising opening act. While a genealogy might seem like a total snooze fest to us, for Matthew's original audience, first-century Jewish readers, this was like the headline of a major news story. It established everything: identity, legitimacy, destiny. It was the whole ballgame.
You see, back then, your family tree wasn't just a fun fact. It was your resume. It proved who you were and what you were entitled to. So Matthew's very first sentence is, a record of the genealogy of Jesus Christ, the son of David, the son of Abraham. Boom. Right away, he's checking the two most important boxes for anyone claiming to be the Messiah.
But this isn't just any family tree. Matthew has crafted this thing with incredible care and artistry. It's not just a list of names, it's a structured, memorable argument for a king, and it's built on a kind of hidden code. The entire structure hinges on this number, 3. Matthew deliberately arranges all the names into 3 distinct groups, and each group has 14 generations. Now, that is no accident. It's a brilliant way to organize the information, and it's a real piece of literary art. And here is where we find that hidden code. Why 14? Well, in ancient Hebrew, letters also had numerical values. And the name David, when you add up the value of its letters, comes out to, you guessed it, 14. So Matthew is essentially stamping the name of Israel's greatest king over and over and over again, leading right to Jesus. It's an amazing way to say this is the heir to the throne. But just when the pattern seems perfectly clear and royal, Matthew does something really shocking. In a culture where genealogies were almost always exclusively male, he deliberately includes 4 women by name right before he gets to Mary. And as we're about to see, these are not the women you'd expect to find in a royal lineage. First up, there's Tamar. Her story back in Genesis is, well, it's a wild one involving deception to claim her rightful heir from her father-in-law. Now, even though she was ultimately declared more righteous than him, highlighting this story is a choice. Next, we get Rahab. So not only was she a Gentile, a total outsider, but she was a prostitute in the enemy city of Jericho. She's remembered for her incredible faith, for sure, but her profession was undeniably scandalous. Then there's Ruth, another foreigner, a Moabite. And according to the ancient law in Deuteronomy, Moabites were explicitly forbidden from ever entering the assembly of the Lord. And yet, here she is, the great-grandmother of King David himself. And finally, Matthew points to the wife of Uriah, that's Bathsheba. He doesn't even use her name. He ties her forever to King David's greatest sin, adultery and murder. It's no wonder one scholar called this a diseased family tree. So this brings us right back to the puzzle. I mean, if you're trying to prove someone is the perfect king, the Messiah, why on earth would you deliberately shine a spotlight on all the scandal, the outsiders, and the sin in his family line? What is Matthew up to? And here's the brilliant twist at the heart of Matthew's argument. From the very first paragraph, he is signaling that this story is not just for the pure, or the powerful, or the insiders. The inclusion of these women shows that God's grace works through broken people, through Gentiles, through sinners. The story of this king is for absolutely everyone. Okay, so having established Jesus' royal and radically inclusive family line, Matthew moves on to the birth story. And here, every single event is framed as the fulfillment of an ancient promise, designed to resonate deeply with the history of Israel. And the parallels here are just unmistakable. The story is told through Joseph, which cements that Davidic line. Angels talk to him in dreams, just like they did with the great patriarchs in Genesis. The very first people to worship him aren't Jewish leaders, but pagan astrologers from the East, a huge signal of his global reach. The family has to flee and become refugees in Egypt, and a tyrant king tries to kill him as a baby, a direct, chilling echo of the story of Moses. Matthew is shouting from the rooftops. History is repeating itself and reaching its climax right here, right now. Next, Matthew shows this new king undergoing a trial that basically mirrors the entire history of his people. After his baptism, Jesus is led into the desert for 40 days, which is meant to remind us of Israel being tested in the desert for 40 years. This slide just lays out the parallels so clearly. Jesus is essentially reliving the story of Israel. But here's the key. Where Israel failed its tests in the desert, Jesus succeeds. He's being presented as the true Israel, the new Moses, the one who is finally going to get it right. So, with his identity established and his faithfulness proven, Jesus does something really symbolic. He goes up on a mountain, just like Moses did, to deliver the foundational teaching, the manifesto, really, for his new kingdom. This is, of course, the famous Sermon on the Mount. And as the theologian John Stott puts it, this is not just a collection of nice, gentle sayings. It's a radical mission statement. It's Jesus' own description of the kind of life and the kind of community that he wants to create. Stott calls this a Christian counterculture. The sermon lays out a value system that is completely upside down compared to the world. And the key phrase you hear over and over is, "You have heard it said, but I tell you." Jesus is taking the established law and turning the intensity way, way up. So for example, the law says, do not murder. That's an external action, pretty straightforward. But Jesus says, wait a minute, the root of murder is anger in your heart. He completely shifts the focus from just your outward behavior to your internal motive. And the pattern just continues. The law says, do not commit adultery. And again, Jesus pushes deeper. He says that true righteousness in his kingdom is about the heart's intent, even a lustful thought. What he's showing is that being a citizen of his kingdom isn't about following a list of rules. It's about a total transformation of your heart and your mind. And after laying out this incredibly high standard, the sermon ends with a challenge. Jesus makes it crystal clear that just listening to these words, just thinking, oh, that's a nice ideal, is totally useless. The entire point is to actually put them into practice. He wraps it all up with this final, stark image. A wise builder who hears his words and does them. That person is building their house on solid rock. But the foolish builder who hears the words and just ignores them is building on sand, and their house is destined to collapse. The sermon, and really Matthew's entire argument, leaves every single one of us with a provocative question that echoes down through time. On what foundation are you building your life?